Welcome back to the Smart Woman Show, creating leaders, inspiring real women to take ownership of what is up in their lives. And this is Sheri Centrella. She is one of my favorite leaders because she says it how it is. She nails it home. She brings it home with some F-bombs. So get ready for it if you're offended by the F-bomb. Forget about it. Don't be offended. Right. Because you need to hear this. You need to hear this message. So if you're offended, there's a reason why you're here. But Sarah, I want to introduce you. She is a master coach and a best-selling author. Sarah, I feel like such a dick because I couldn't even get your book to be on the show because usually, I like to have the book
right,
show.
yes.
I couldn't even get your book.
I'm very excited to say that it's sold out. So don't worry. Yours will be coming in July along with everybody else's who's out there pre-ordering. So thank you for putting the effort out though.
So I did go on your website and I did pre-order. And I just to make sure, I actually pre-ordered it on Amazon as well.
Yes, you're amazing. Thank you.
And then, so what's the deal with, and guys, sorry, just forgive me for a sec. I want to know because she's another book coming out and I want future boards as well. #future boards. So how can I pre-order that too?
Yes, you can pre-order both of them. So the first one, which is the one I think that you were looking for, that is Hustle, Believe, Receive, and it's sold out like a month ago, I guess. And then it's being re-released in paperback. And then Future Boards is brand new and it's coming out in July.
What a problem to have. I want to tell you another thing. I want to give you guys some insight to Sarah. We were just chatting before this because I actually got to know Sarah through Ed Mylett, who you guys know I was super stoked to have on the show. And she was telling me, she says, Tara, Ed, because I said, how do you know him? How did you get an interview with him? Like, that's amazing. She said, actually, he sought me out and I ignored him.
That's what happens when you don't know who you're talking to, right? But the universe works in mysterious ways, and I'm so literally blessed to have his friendship in my life, and we've been such great friends the last year. So it was an amazing thing being on his show, and I can't wait to hear the interview you did with him because he's pretty incredible.
It is bomb ass. It is bomb ass. Okay, so my favorite thing, because I did get to pull some excerpts from your book. And one of the words that really sticks out for me is your relentless pursuit. And I think as women, when we get to these super itchy, I call them itchy points in our lives where we're like, I have to do something. Anything. Right, exactly. And it becomes this relentless pursuit. But we get stuck in victim, right? So there's a couple things. Do you mind if I read a part from your book?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so it says, in moments like this, and I'm going to let you tell the moment it was, but in moments like this, we're faced with two options: fall apart and disappear, or we can fucking fight.
Fucking fight.
So give the pretense to what your crumbling moment was. As much detail as you want to give, I don't care. And then what you chose.
Absolutely. And for me, my life changed because the worst possible scenario happened. At the time that my rock bottom moment happened, I had been married, been with my husband for 16 years, married for 8. We had 3 kids. And we'd been going through kind of a rough patch because it was the economy had totally tanked. We lost our house and that and whatnot. But one thing that I had never really questioned was my marriage and my relationship, because I've known this guy since I was a sophomore in high school, right? And we'd been together forever. And then literally one day he came home, I made dinner, he got in the shower, it was a normal day. My twins were a year old, they're just over a year. My son was 5.5. And I just suddenly had that horrible intuition feeling. And I know you have listeners out there who know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just washes over your body instantaneously, and you just know something horrible is about to happen. And the crazy thing was, I had been watching the Oprah show earlier in the day, back when she had her daily show on, and the topic of the day was how to catch your man cheating, or how to find out if your man was cheating. And I literally had been folding laundry and remember muting the TV because I was like, I don't need to pay attention to today's broadcast,
Is it interesting? Pay attention to your triggers.
Right? Totally. And the universe was like, hello, bitch. Wake up, And it was one of those things I saw, even though it was muted, I saw the little screens, how they give the tips up there. And I remember glancing at it. and it said, if you can't find his phone, if he's kind of making an effort to hide his phone, you know, something's up. And I was like, whatever, you know. And then it was like in the moment that I had that overwhelming body experience, I just knew. I knew exactly. It was like the instant I had the thought, I knew I hadn't seen his phone. I knew what would be on his phone, and I knew what that would mean. And he was in the shower. I found it, you know, in the clothes he was about to put on. And it was a text message from his mistress. And it basically was the end all be all to everything. I mean,
what did it say?
I truly thank the universe for what it said, because it was the most perfect text message you could possibly get as a woman, as far as like knowing what you're dealing with. And it said, I can't wait till you're finally free. All mine, no more sharing. Smiley face. And so that for me was everything I needed to know. There was no lying to get out of it. There was nothing he could do to get out of it. To me, it told me, this has been going on a long time. I'm frustrated. I just saw you. I'm frustrated that you had to go home. And I was like, what more can be said? Yeah. So I literally turned the water off in the shower, told him to get the fuck out of the house and never come back. And he put his clothes on soaking wet, threw his ring at me, and walked out the door. Jeez. And that was it.
Sarah, I've heard this is the third time.
The moment where you have a choice. You either die or you fight.
Okay, right. So, but in your book, and I don't have it written down here, but it goes on to say that and I've heard this is the third time I've heard this story, and it gives me goosebumps for the third time, because I know that the viewers watching, the women who are watching this show, they've either gone through something kind of similar to this, they're going through it, or it's about to happen, right? Because this shit happens in our lives.
Yeah. And as women, we have those intuitions, but I think so many ignore them or argue with them or fight them. And if I could say one thing to women out there, if you have that intuition, you're right, period. So if you've felt that even in spurting moments, the universe is trying to wake your ass up. And if you don't wake up, the universe will destroy your life for you. Yes. And that's exactly what happened for me. And I call them earthquake moments, because if we don't do anything with all those signs that are given to us to wake our ass up and make a change, the universe will literally send you crashing into a wall until you're like, okay, I get it now. Yeah, I get it. I'm awake. I understand what's happening. And trust me, you don't want to be there if you don't have to be there. So if you have intuitions about anything in your life, not just that, pay attention to them, because you don't want to have an earthquake moment to make you realize what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. And like what you were saying, you know, I shut off the TV. Pay attention to what you're pretending not to know, right? What are you pretending not to know that's going on in your life? So, okay, so I really want to bring it back, because you're a coach, I'm a coach, we get clients, we find our clients in all sorts of areas in their life. Some are fired up, some are like totally down in the dumps. So I want to really hone in on this victim place that we go, because what was your initial thought after this? Like, where did you go initially?
Oh my gosh. 100%, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. I can't do this. And to the place where, and I always say this because it's hard for us to remember back that far, but this was 2008. There was no social media. There was no Facebook. There was nothing. I literally, when I read that text, I did not even know my husband knew how to text, because we had those old like push point phones and no one texted. So back in the olden days, you only knew the people you knew personally, right? That was it. You knew the people you worked with and people that you had known all your life. So you knew maybe 50 people, and then there was TV and there was books. So that's how isolated our worlds were. And I didn't know anyone who had ever been through anything like that, ever. I didn't know one woman who had been in a situation like I was in. And so I remember like immediately after, just like laying on the floor and sobbing, obviously, but in my mind I was constantly trying to go through like, okay, well, what can I do, what can I do, what can I do? And it was like, I can't do anything. Like I'm so screwed. Like I hadn't worked, I had no income, everything was in his name. Like I didn't have $5 to my name. So that victim mentality was like, yeah, you're that. And I think the one thing that kind of came through in all of that, as I kept on being like, I can't, like, why me, whatever, this other voice that we all have inside us, again, we love to argue with it, but it's there if we'll listen, was just like, what if you can?
What if you can?
What if you can? And it didn't provide the beautiful solution laid out, like, whoa, it's not like that. but it's just countering the argument. It's countering your victimness. It's countering all those voices that you're constantly trying to give yourself as truly excuses for why you can't do stuff. And so that idea of like, what if you can, every time my back is against the wall from that moment on, I'm like, well, I don't see a way at all. I've tried every single thing there is to try. I still don't see a way, but I can somehow.
Somehow.
You know?
Somehow there's a light down here.
You always do.
Right. And you always do. But here's the thing. Okay. My whole thing with this series, this summit, is to wake women up. Yes, okay. Because I have a lot of women in my life. Most of the women that are, kind of in my family and my clients when they come to me initially, and they've given themselves this permission to stay in their story, to be a victim. I mean, Sarah, your story is
be mediocre.
And be mediocre. And
that isn't even like, that's not even a dig. They know. They'll come to you and say, I'm living a mediocre, half asleep life, but I don't know what to do. Please, God.
And so I want to just say for the viewers watching now, like, it's time to wake up. Like, look at what Sarah, and then we're going to get into what you do, Sarah, and what you did to wake yourself up. But if you are in this victim role, it is time for you to wake your ass up. And Sarah and I are sitting here right now giving you permission to not just say, what if I can, but God damn it, I can.
And how do I? How do I? It's just
so now we're going to switch into action. Yeah. Okay, so you have the secret, and I implemented this in my coaching too. You have the secret for vision boards, but you call yours future boards, which I love.
Yes.
Tell us about why this was so important to you and how to move it forward.
Yeah, so I think to your point about how do we get out of a place of being victimized to a place of empowerment, for me, though I was going through all these things that would have in a previous life totally made me go into victim mode, because I was never a positive person before this happened. I was always a victim.
Interesting.
So the fact that when my back was against the wall and I had to totally rebuild, I didn't go to that natural state. I wanted to, but that little kind of what if started spurning a totally brand new thought process for me, which was like, okay, so if I have essentially a clean slate, might be an ugly one, but I can kind of do whatever I want. Then it left this huge question out there. Well, what do I want? And I have to tell you, I coach people all the time, and that is the one question no one can answer. If I point blank ask anybody, so what do you want? What do you want generally? What do you want in your life? Whatever. It's so much harder to answer. And so for me in the beginning, since it was totally brand new and I could kind of imagine anything, I just like started imagining myself in third person and was like, oh, if this woman is really successful, like, how does she dress? How does she carry herself? Where does she go to work? What car does she drive? What bag does she have? And so I just built her out of thin air. And I was like, where does she vacation? How does she be a mom now that she's a single mom and all of that? Yeah. And so then I went and looked for pictures that matched that. And I plastered my cube at the first job I got with them. And it was about 18 months before it just started coming alive. And you'll see some behind me, and they have not stopped. It's been 10 years, and I'm like on my 6th or 7th full board manifested. It's insane. Yeah.
It actually is insane, especially when it starts to happen. Okay, so and I love that you said, okay, let me just back it up, because I want to make sure that all of these little nuggets are being highlighted. You said, I saw myself, because I didn't know what I wanted. So I decided to see myself in third person. Yeah. Guess what? Sometimes we have to remove ourselves from this victimized mess and have an objective view, because guess what? This person's not making the right decisions right now. So somebody outside has to.
Yeah. And I think it, especially for women, and when I've coached women who have a hard time seeing their life in any other way, and that's common, especially if you're just kind of getting started in the process, I will always refer to her even in third person. And it's crazy when you do that, how by removing the emotion with it, they can see it, and they can see it so much clearer. They're like, oh yeah, in 5 years, if I'm a boss bitch, what does she look like? Yes. And then you can drill it down and be, then it all makes sense versus, throwing together a quote vision board and just putting some random shit on it. It's like, now I'm looking, and the one behind me, that is my future life. So if I'm having a bad day, I come here and I'm be like, let's get some perspective, because this is what I'm working for. This is what my end of the light at the end of the tunnel is. This is my motivation. This is my relentless pursuit.
Mm.
And it does it every time. If this was a random board full of magazine shit, it would not do that for me. So it's a huge difference and a huge mental shift.
Okay, so hang on. So I've done vision boards for a really long time.
Yeah.
I've also made my vision boards come true, and it blew my mind when they were happening.
Yeah.
My first vision board was, I actually had a black Ferrari on it, and
oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
That's a picture of me with my black Ferrari. Okay, so hang on a second. What you're talking about is actually very specific, and I've seen some vision boards that I'm like, that's not a vision board. That's not going to work. So I did see on your website that you have coaching available for doing a proper vision board, because it's not as simple as it sounds.
No. And actually I have an 8-week coaching program that I do. We don't even get to make our boards until week 5. So that's all the groundwork that we do before I let someone make their board. There has to be so much that goes into it. You have to answer those questions like, what do I want? What do I want personally? What do I want in my career? What do I want my ideal relationships to look like? What do I want for my mind and body? All of that stuff. And if you can't answer and identify that, then making a board is really pretty useless unless you're a super power driven person on your own. And some people are, and I know you are, but not everybody is. And if they don't have that drive and motivation already, then putting a random board together is not going to work for them.
Okay, so stop putting your random boards together. We're going to put the link down here, how to get the step process. So click on this link down here or wherever it is on this page. I'm not sure. And get onto Sarah's how to actually make a vision board, because they work. Vision boards work. 100% work.
Oh my God, it's changed my life. It's completely changed my life. I mean, when I started after he left, like I said, I didn't have a penny to my name, went on food stamps, had to sell every single thing that I owned that I could get $50 for, to even move and, get started again or whatever. And the first 2 years were really tough. I was barely feeding my kids, it was not a pretty time. But once I learned how to shift my mindset from what was going on in my daily life, which was total shit, right, to this new imaginary future life. And I spent more time in that imaginary new future life than I did bitching about my current situation. Everything switched for me. Everything changed. And it was that focus and that, mental visualization of, what's it going to feel like to actually be on that beach and watch my kids build sandcastles while I'm having a Mai Tai. And in my real life, I'm like, I have an eviction notice. What am I going to do about that? You know what I mean? So here's the difference. Most people will only be in the, I have an eviction notice, my life is over. And I was like, I can't be there. If my mind stays there, it's all over. I will lose it. So instead, I'm like, wouldn't that be great? Isn't that going to be great the day that happens? How am I going to feel the day that happens? And the crazy thing is a year and a half later, I was on the beach in Hawaii with my son, watching him make sandcastles, going, yeah, it feels just as good. No, it feels better. But I would never have got there, ever, 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 if I had stayed focused on my current situation and did not have the ability to envision something different.
One thing I love that you say in that excerpt that I got to read was, I'd created all my misfortunes. And before this conversation happened and we started recording, I'd just been telling you about this in super intensive leadership training that I went through. And the question was posed to me, is it possible that you generated your life? Is it possible that you are responsible for creating every shitty thing that is happening in your life right now? And immediately I was like, no. Like,
you're like, me?
This wasn't my fault.
Right?
This wasn't my fault. What about this? I had nothing to do with that. That happened to me. But our good friend Ed Mylett, right? His whole thing, nothing happens to me. Everything happens for me. So is it possible that you generated and created your husband?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. And here's the thing, I tell that to everybody that I coach, and some people can handle it earlier and some people need a little coddling before they can handle it. But the bottom line is, if you work with me, you're going to realize that 1000%, because we can't ever change your future outcomes until you can get to the place where you see that and realize that. Because here's the thing, every person on the planet is manifesting all day long.
All day long.
So you already have most of my method in place in your life. You're just using it wrong. You're using it backwards. So you're manifesting all the shit that's happening to you. You're manifesting all the lack of money. You're manifesting the lack of clients that you have. All of that, you're actively fucking bringing into your life. So if you can grab that concept, take a shot of vodka and swallow it and just be like, this sucks so bad, but all right, I'm here.
Yeah.
I can handle it. I'm going to take a breath. Now what? Now, how do I get different results moving forward? Now, how do I change moving forward? I accept that what I brought into my life, I created. And I absolutely think that I created it because I know deep down, I knew there was more to life than the relationship and the life I was living. And I also, from the time I was a very little girl, knew that I was supposed to be doing something where I was helping other people and where I was using my voice to do that. And all of that had been lost in my marriage. And so you can't put a dream out into the universe and say, I really want to do something great with my life, and then have your life not match it at all. Because eventually the universe is going to say, which do you want? And if you're not able to make that decision, it'll be like, great, I got you. I'm gonna make it for you. And that's exactly what happened to me, you know? And so if that had never happened, I would obviously never be here at all. I would be the stay-at-home mom doing PTA. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but that was never supposed to be me.
No, and let's be clear, you're a smart woman, and that's why you're being hosted on the show, because you're a smart woman. I'm a smart woman. The women who are watching this are smart women. So as a smart woman, I want to dive into the word universe for a second, because not everybody's there. And when we know about the universe, we kind of take it for granted, and it just kind of falls off our lips because you and I understand this, but maybe a viewer right now is like, okay, this universe shit. Like, what is this? Okay, so I just, because you said you were watching Oprah, and she said that you need to change your thoughts because they're predicting your future.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So I just want to make this point, and then I'd love for you to elaborate on it. The universe doesn't have an opinion about your thoughts.
Right. It's just bringing you what they are.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what it is you're focusing on. It's going to bring it back to you in real life because it thinks that's what you want. So, and I love your point about the universe, because truly I hated that term for the longest time. And I've, as you know,
because it sounds so woo-woo, right?
I make up words all the time. So future boards is my definition because it's not a vision board. So I've come up with a term that better suits me for everything but that. And it drives me crazy. So if anyone has good ideas, please send them in, because I don't like that term because it has so much like new age bullshit that I don't believe attached to it. For me, I use it very generically, where someone could insert intuition. I am very intuitive, so that is kind of my guiding thing. A lot of people are very religious, so you can insert that. So for me, it is a little bit generic, but it is essentially the energy that's outside of you. And I think most people get that there's some form of energy outside of us, whatever it is, even if it's a fucking atmosphere, right? Like there's something that keeps this planet spinning. Yeah. So you can call it anything that you want, but it's kind of that extra piece that is working in your favor if you know how to use it right, to kind of make things happen that you couldn't. So it's timing. A lot of times, like people get very frustrated because they can't control the timing. So that's the element that is, if you're guiding it right, will work in your favor. It'll get timing in line for you in your favor. If you're not, it'll fuck you up. So learn how to use it.
Like it's not your friend. Let's be clear. It's not your friend in the sense that, you know, you're like, oh man, I wish I didn't have these bills to pay. Right. All it hears is bills to pay. Bills to pay. It's not like, oh, well, I wish I should find a way to not get her bills. All it hears is bills to pay. Okay, well, let's find more bills for her to pay.
Yes. Oh my God. And it's such, actually last night in my DM, someone had messaged me and they were like, you know, I can't afford to learn how to change my thoughts. And I was like, well, that's why. You know, and they're like, and I can't believe I could ever get a windfall and I was like, literally, if that's how you're going through life, you will never get another outcome. I don't know what to tell you. So either I could teach you how to not think that way so you can start getting the outcome that you want, or you can continue walking through life thinking that windfalls don't happen to you or whatever the case is, and you will 1000% predict your future every time. Like it is not rocket science. It's the one thing I want to tell you. The shit is so simple that it seems too simple. It's so simple.
And then some people complicate it. So I love that you keep it simple, because some people complicate it and it's like, what are you talking about?
Oh, it's so simple. It's literally first grader stuff, honestly.
Yeah, I love it. which means you need to go back, roll back in this interview and click on that link if you didn't already. Okay, so, but come back to us. So I want to bring it down how to do this simply. And I know you're just like me. My whole mastermind program is designed around I ams. And I know you also designed everything around I am. So tell this smart woman who's watching this how to start with I ams.
Oh my God. They're one of the homework assignments that I give everybody. It's in the book too, in the Think It chapter, because we don't even understand how many times a day we're putting ourselves down. Not just putting ourselves down, that's like one level, but how many times we are begging for shit to happen to us all day long by saying, I am tired, I am fat, I am ugly, I am unsuccessful, I am blah, blah, blah. And women, I know you get it. If you paused and listened to what was going on in your head, you would hear those just on repeat all the time. And so here's the thing, Joe Olstein, and that's the one video of his that I've watched that is actually super powerful. He says, whatever word comes after I am, is the word that is hunting you. So if you think about that, it's not even the I am piece. It's the word that follows it. Any word, insert any word. So I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm non-successful, whatever. That is hunting you. So fat is hunting you. Ugly is hunting you. Wrinkles are hunting you. Tiredness is hunting you. And when you get that, you're like, no wonder.
Yeah.
No wonder why I'm here. So what I love about everything that I teach is that you can see it so black and white, how it works negatively or how it has worked negatively in your life. So then just a logical 2-year-old brain would be like, if I flipped it, the opposite would happen, right? Again, like keep it simple.
And you don't need to believe it at first, because that's the beautiful power of the universe.
Actually, you'll never believe it in the beginning. At
You
all.
won't. You're right.
And it doesn't matter. So if you go in the mirror every morning, you say, I am beautiful. I'm looking younger every day. I am so proud of myself, whatever. Yeah. The first week that you do that, the first day is going to feel real fucking weird. The second day is a little less. By the end of the week, you can do it, and you're now looking at your own eyes in the mirror, and you're not like super awkward about it. 6 months into doing that, you're like, yeah, bitch, I'm hot. That's what happens.
Hey, listen, you know what they say? Quantum physics is actually proven with however they prove shit. I don't know that the sequence of words I am are the most powerful sequence of words.
Yes.
Alongside of I love you.
Right.
Ever.
Probably even more, because they're so declarative, right? I am declaring something.
Declaring.
So I am anything. You're claiming it, you're declaring it, you're basically putting it out into the universe as an undisputable fact.
Yep.
So if you start to think of all the negative ways you're doing it, you're putting that out into the universe as an undisputable fact. Right?
You know what? Let's call these women to action right now. Yeah, let's call them to action right now. Get out a piece of paper and a pen right now. And I want you to write down I am. And for those of you who want to know what my I am statement is, it's I am a confident, powerful, loving woman. And I am committed to creating influence, vulnerability, and authenticity. And that is me to a core. So I want to know, I want you to email Sarah. I want you to email me, DM me, find us somehow and tell us I am what we want to know.
Yes. Give me 10. So what I love for people to do is just bullet them out. Just boom, 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 boom. Like,
bam.
So I am beautiful. I am successful. I am powerful. I am driven. I'm loved. I am lovable. I am worthy. All of those, women have a tough time with those. So if you said that to yourself the second your eyes open every morning, how much better of a day would you have? Girl, so if there's any takeaways for your listeners out there, I would say, number one, just today, whatever you're doing from this moment on for the rest of the night till you go to bed, think about all the things you said to yourself today. Yeah. And every time you hear that I am, let it be a neon sign that flashes in your head that's like, do, 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 so you can start to pay attention to them. And then all you do is when it comes up and says like, I am tired, you say, I am energized, and just flip it every time. And that is how you're going to train your brain to, number one, stop giving you that negative and start putting out the positive. And then over time, the more you do that, the more you're going to rise to that level, and the more you will actually one day wake up and be that I am statement.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I want to reinforce what you said. Sarah told you, you will not believe it at first.
You will not.
There's no.
And here's the thing. If you believe it at first, you don't need it.
That's right. That's right.
So you won't. And people
You're
are
not
always like,
stretching.
oh, I feel like I'm lying. I'm like, yeah, bitch, you are lying. Because here's the thing. That is the only way that you're going to get to a new outcome. If you can't first put a new outcome out in your mind and in your words, how the hell are you going to wake up one day and be that? It just will never happen. Like, you don't go on a vacation without ever once thinking about that destination or that vacation, right? There's a million things that go into all of that before you're actually on a beach, right? But it had to start with an idea, it had to start with a thought, and then you were able to, even if the thought at first was like, oh, I could never afford to go on vacation, it doesn't matter. It was like, then you start to do things to make it happen. So yes, it should feel like the biggest lie anyone's ever told. And if it does, you're on track. You're doing good.
You know what I love about you, Sarah? I get the sense that, how many vision boards have you say you created?
Oh my gosh. So I was just going through all my old ones. I think I have 7 that have totally come to life. And by that, I mean, everything but like Oprah has been checked off.
Right. So you haven't stopped. Like,
no,
I get the feeling that you will never arrive. Look at
that.
Yeah.
This is my wall, baby.
Yeah. I get the feeling that you feel you will never arrive.
Oh God, no. No, and I don't ever want to. So for me and for everybody that I coach and for everybody that I interviewed in the book, one of the big questions I asked was, what's next? And every successful person I've ever talked to can rattle out their what's next.
Okay, so what's next, Sarah?
They're more excited about their what's next than what's now because they're planning ahead, right? They're planning ahead. And so if the only time you get in a life that you don't like is because you stopped planning ahead and you started focusing on today. So every year I redo my board, every year I redo my homework, and I'm like, so I know I can tell you what's going to happen in 10 years and in 5 years.
So tell us. I want to know what's going on in your life.
Yes. So my long term, when my kids go off to college and I have 6.5 years left, my ass is going to be in a villa in Italy writing books. So that's the plan. But coming up, the new book is coming out. Cannot wait for that. And then I'm working on some TV show. So yeah, there's a lot of really exciting stuff that's happening in the future that none of it would be even in the works or in the plan if it didn't start with a thought, if it didn't start with a crazy picture in my head and then in real life of what it was going to be. And then it's happening. It's coming alive.
Yeah. The action plan in preparing for your future is, what I'm gathering from you is monitoring your thoughts and creating an action plan through vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my book, it has 8 different steps. So one is the dream. So you got to have the dream. Otherwise, what are you doing? So get clear on what you want and get that dream in your mind, allow it to grow, allow it to do its thing. And then learn how to switch your thoughts, learn how to change them. So you'll start getting outcomes you want instead of being on the rat race. A big one too is watch your words. They predict what's happening next.
Be impeccable with your word.
They are predicting what is happening next. So if you don't want whatever you're about to say to happen, stop yourself mid-sentence and either don't say anything or switch it to an outcome you want. So just those simple things will change your freaking life. And then, yeah, absolutely. We get down to writing it all down and putting our plan and doing the board and all of that. But if you can start there, if you can start with your mind and your words, you're going to be ahead of the game, man.
Awesome, Sarah. Hey, you guys, Sarah shares stages with big names. You've got to know her. Find her on Instagram. We'll put it all down here, Instagram, Facebook. She is a connecting source. She wants to hear you. She wants to know you. She wants to see you. She is in service. Her role in this world is to serve you. So if anything that she said has intimidated you or triggered you or made you feel like you couldn't possibly, then that is your cue to connect with her.
Yes.
To make sure that you're pushing through that trigger.
You can. I don't care. I've seen it all. I've coached it all. I've probably been through it all as well. And there isn't a situation that I've seen or lived through that you can't overcome.
Yeah. And pre-order the books here. Books here. We'll put the links there too for that. Sarah, you have been a relentless leader. You have shown up in such a huge way for these women today. I am so grateful to you for creating a vulnerable, authentic place.
Thank you. It was an honor to get to know your audience. Can't wait to hear from them.
Yes, you will. Email Sarah, connect. All right, Sarah, have an awesome day. Go forth and envision it all.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye, girlfriend.
Bye.